What happens when the man who signs the paycheck starts stacking apples in the produce aisle and nobody knows who he is? Isaiah Atwood crouched by the wooden crates, lining up Granny Smith's like he'd been doing it for years. His back ached. He'd been at it since 6:30. The uniform shirt was stiff, the name tag said Greg, and the blue cap sat low over his eyebrows, hiding most of his face. A neatly trimmed beard and colored contact lenses helped too. No one would guess he was the CEO who bought the company 8 years ago and grew it into 19 thriving market locations. This store number 11, located in a busy shopping plaza outside of Dayton, wasn't thriving anymore. Sales had dipped. Reviews were slipping. A few months ago, a longtime customer emailed about how the vibe had changed. "Used to feel like family," she wrote. "Now it feels like a warehouse." Isaiah had tried talking to the store manager, but the answers were always polished. "We're working on training," or "we've hired a new assistant to help with morale." Something didn't sit right. So he decided to come see for himself. He'd never met the crew here. The chain had grown fast, and with 19 markets, he couldn't shake every hand. That made this the perfect spot to blend in. "Hey, Greg," a woman's voice called behind him. "You're stacking those like you're building a pyramid." Isaiah looked up. A young woman with dark curls and a tired smile stood holding a box of oranges. "Just trying to make him look good," Isaiah said. She laughed. "Well, they do. I'm Zadie. You knew?" "Yeah, first day." "Good luck," she said, and walked off toward the citrus display. The store looked clean but felt off. Not dirty, just tense. Workers moved quickly but didn't talk much. A few wore fake smiles when customers passed, but dropped them the second they turned away. An older man near the deli asked, "You seen the manager? I asked for sliced turkey 15 minutes ago." Isaiah didn't know what to say, but Zadie passed by again and handled it. "I'll go check on that for you," she said warmly. "Hang tight." Isaiah kept stacking apples, watching. By noon, he'd already seen two things that bugged him. First, the assistant manager, some guy named Corey, was barking orders but never lifting a finger. Second, the produce cooler in the back had mold in the corner. He'd seen it when he went to grab more pears. Not dangerous yet, but not okay. Around one, he was sweeping up a dropped tomato when a voice exploded near the front. "I ain't paying for this crap." "It's half rotten." Isaiah turned his head. A man in a stained hoodie was yelling at the cashier. "I'm not gonna say it again," the man said. "Get me your manager." "No problem, sir," said the cashier calmly. She was maybe 22, with red braids and a soft but steady voice. "But first, let's take a look at what you've got." Isaiah dropped the broom and walked closer. He wasn't the only one. A few customers paused. The man had slammed 2 bags of grapes and a loaf of bread on the counter. "They look fine to me," the cashier said after checking. "But if you're not happy, I can offer an exchange or a refund." The man leaned in. "You think I'm playing with you? I've had a long day and I don't need your attitude." Isaiah watched closely. The girl didn't back down. "My name's Zahara," she said evenly, "and I'm just doing my job." "I'm happy to help, but not if you're yelling. Please lower your voice." The man opened his mouth to shout again, but then Corey stomped over. "What's the issue?" Corey snapped. The man pointed. "She's got an attitude." Corey didn't even glance at Zahara. "Just give him what he wants." Zahara blinked. "But I said give it to him." Isaiah's jaw tightened. The customer grabbed his new bags and left, muttering. Zahara stepped aside, her hands shaking slightly as she rang up the next guest. Isaiah moved behind the counter, pretending to inspect a nearby display but really just watching her. She smiled at the next woman in line like nothing had happened. Zadie passed by and whispered, "She deals with that kind of thing almost every week." Isaiah nodded slowly. "She always that calm?" "Always," Zadie said. "Corey always throws her under the bus too." By the time his shift ended at 4, Isaiah's back hurt and his shirt was damp with sweat. He clocked out and sat in his car for a long minute. Zahara, calm under pressure, treated with zero respect. Corey. Lazy, loud, and careless. Isaiah stared at the building through the windshield. He'd seen enough to know he couldn't walk away. Tomorrow he'd be back. Not as Greg, as the man who owned the keys. Isaiah showed up early the next morning, this time in a charcoal blazer and pressed shirt. No disguise, no name tag. He parked further from the building than yesterday, letting the late spring air clear his head before heading inside. The store opened 15 minutes ago, and already the lot was half full. He walked briskly through the automatic doors and scanned for familiar faces. No one looked twice at him. He didn't go to the office. Not yet. Instead, he moved slowly past the produce section. Zadie was already working, her hoodie sleeves pushed to her elbows as she trimmed bruises off a head of lettuce. She didn't notice him. Zahara was on register 3. A young mother with a toddler in the cart was checking out. Zahara handed the kid a free banana from the basket by the counter and said something that made the mother laugh. Isaiah kept walking. Near the back of the store, the office door stood open. A man inside leaned back in a swivel chair, tapping at his phone with one hand and sipping from a convenience store coffee cup in the other. "Corey," Isaiah stepped to the doorway. "Morning," he said. Corey didn't look up. "Yeah," Isaiah waited. After a few seconds, Corey glanced up. "You someone from corporate?" Isaiah nodded once. "Isaiah Atwood, I own the company." Corey froze, the phone still hovering in his hand. He straightened slowly, then stood. "Oh, wow, didn't expect we weren't told you were coming." "I didn't tell anyone. I wanted to see how things ran without a heads up." Corey gave a short laugh, then cleared his throat. "Right, well, you know how it is, busy mornings. We're short 2 people this week, but we're managing." Isaiah studied him. "I came in yesterday, worked a shift on the floor." Corey blinked. "You did," stacked apples, watched how things moved, met a few people. Corey's mouth opened, then closed. He scratched his neck. "Guess I didn't recognize you." "You didn't." Isaiah stepped inside, letting the silence stretch. "You've got a good-sized team here," he said finally. "But they look tired. You notice that?" Corey hesitated. "I mean, it's a busy store. We get a lot of foot traffic." "Busy doesn't bother me," Isaiah said. "Disengaged does." Corey leaned against the desk, arms crossed. "I push the team hard, gotta keep standards up." Isaiah looked at him. "You push them hard from this chair." Corey flushed slightly but didn't speak. Isaiah turned toward the window that looked out on the floor. "I watched a cashier de-escalate a situation yesterday. Grace under pressure. She handled it better than most managers I've seen." "Zahara," Corey said. She's solid." Isaiah faced him again. "You backed the customer, not her." Corey's mouth twisted. "I didn't want to lose the guy. He was making a scene." "And what message did that send to her?" Corey looked away. Isaiah stepped closer. "You've been managing this store how long?" "Little over a year. You inherit the team, mostly. I brought in 2 people I knew, the rest were here." Isaiah nodded slowly. "Walk the floor with me." Corey hesitated. Now, they moved through the aisles. Corey offered safe, vague comments. "We rearranged the frozen section last quarter, trying to boost grab-and-go sales. Seasonal end caps rotate weekly." Isaiah let him talk. Near the bakery, an older employee was unloading trays of muffins. Her wrist had a brace on it and she worked slowly, using her elbow to nudge the cart forward. Isaiah stopped. "Who's that?" "Dolores, been here forever. Takes her time, but she shows up." "How's her performance?" Corey shrugged. "She's not fast. But she doesn't complain." Isaiah stepped forward. "Morning, Dolores." She looked up, surprised. "Good morning." "I'm Isaiah Atwood," he said. "Just checking in." She blinked. "The Isaiah," he smiled. "The one who signs the checks, yeah." "Oh," she wiped her hands on her apron. "Well, welcome. Didn't expect to meet you in the muffin aisle. How's the wrist?" "Arthritis. Gets worse in the cold. You ever ask for lighter duties?" She hesitated. "I did, once. Was told we needed consistency in bakery." Isaiah glanced at Corey. "Who told you that?" Dolores looked uncomfortable. "Doesn't matter, I manage." Isaiah rested a hand lightly on the cart. "You've been here a long time." "Since the 3rd month this store opened." "That matters to me." Dolores nodded, lips pressed together. "Appreciate that." They moved on. Isaiah didn't speak again until they reached the walk-in cooler. He opened the door, stepped inside, and pointed without a word. The mold in the corner had spread. "Why hasn't this been cleaned?" he asked. Corey looked at it like he hadn't seen it before. "We've been short-staffed. Maintenance is scheduled monthly. This has been here longer than a month. You don't walk your own store." I've been focusing on the front end lately." Isaiah stepped back out. "That's your answer?" "No, I mean I'll get it scrubbed today." "You'll get it scrubbed right now," Isaiah said. "And then we're going to the break room." Corey didn't argue. The break room held 3 folding chairs, a dented vending machine, and a bulletin board with faded flyers. Zadie was in the corner, eating from a plastic container. She looked up when they entered. Isaiah nodded to her. "Mind if we use the table?" She stood immediately. "Of course, I was just finishing." "Zadie, right?" She blinked. "Yes, you've been helping with produce since January. You like it?" She hesitated. "I like the work, not the rest." She glanced at Corey, then back at Isaiah. "Some days are harder than others." Isaiah gave a small nod. "Thanks for your time." She left. Corey sat awkwardly across from him. "You're underperforming," Isaiah said calmly. "Not just sales, culture, morale, accountability." "I get results," Corey started. "No," Isaiah interrupted. "You get numbers that barely hold. There's a difference." Corey's jaw clenched. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I've seen enough." Corey leaned back. "You're gonna fire me." "I'm reassigning you. Effective immediately. You'll report to the regional manager in Columbus for retraining. If you show growth, we'll find a fit. If not, we part ways." "That's it." Isaiah stood. "That's more than fair." Corey didn't speak again. By the time Isaiah stepped back onto the floor, the energy felt different. He gathered the staff in the front corner of the store, near the floral section. A few paused stocking shelves. Zahara walked up last, wiping her palms on her apron. Isaiah raised his voice just enough to carry. "I'm Isaiah Atwood. I own this company. I spent yesterday working with you. Today I watched how you work. What I saw, some of it impressed me. Some of it didn't." No one moved. "I want to be clear. This store matters, you matter. But I expect this place to reflect the values we built this company on: respect, effort, integrity." A few people nodded. Zahara's eyes were steady, unreadable. "You've had leadership that didn't support you. That's changing today. Corey has been reassigned. Starting next week, interim management will step in while we restructure. Until then, I'll be here." A ripple moved through the group. "I'm not here to punish. I'm here to understand. If you've got concerns, I'll listen. If you've got ideas, I want to hear them." He looked around the circle. "This is your store too. Let's make it feel like it again." He stepped back. The employees drifted away slowly, whispering to one another, unsure but curious. Zahara approached quietly. "You really worked a shift yesterday." "I did." "You think one day tells you everything?" Isaiah smiled slightly. "No, but it told me enough to know who I should be talking to." She met his eyes, then gave a single nod. "Then I guess we'll see what kind of boss you are." Isaiah watched her walk away, then pulled out his phone. He had changes to make. And this time, he wasn't going to make them from a distance. The following morning, Isaiah didn't linger in the parking lot or watch from the edges. He walked straight into the store, nodded at the employees stationed by the carts, and headed toward the back where the storage hallway opened into the manager's office. A clipboard rested on the desk, half filled with outdated schedules. Beside it sat a stack of unopened vendor invoices, some dated 3 weeks back. He tapped the intercom. "All staff, 5-minute floor meet up at the break area. Now." He waited. No one rushed. They arrived in 2s and 3s, some holding half-eaten sandwiches, others with pens still behind their ears. A few leaned quietly against the walls, watching him. Still no official manager in sight. Corey's departure had left a gap. Isaiah had asked Regional to send someone by Friday, but that was still 2 days away. "Thanks for coming," he said once everyone had gathered. "We've got a lot to fix, and I won't pretend we can do it all today. But we're starting." He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded chart, handwritten, not printed. "This is the new task rotation for the next 4 days. No one's stuck in the same section all day. We rotate every 3 hours. That includes checkout. If you're trained for it, you'll take a turn. If you're not, we'll get you cross-trained. There was a pause, then a voice from near the door. What about coverage? It was a tall man who hadn't spoken much the past day. If we're moving around, won't we fall behind? Isaiah nodded. That's where the second change comes in. We're shifting the floor lead role. Each day, someone different takes it. Not permanent, not a promotion. Just a chance to lead a shift and keep things coordinated. You'll get support from me and from regional once they arrive. Zadie crossed her arms. And who picks the leads? I do, Isaiah said. For now. A few glances passed through the group. No one argued. They looked tired but no longer indifferent. You'll get your assignments after this. Give it a shot. If it falls apart, we adjust. They dispersed slowly, some heading back to their departments, others lingering. Zahara stayed behind, tying her apron tighter at the waist. Can I ask something? She said once the room had cleared. Of course. This lead thing, is that? Like a test. Isaiah leaned against the table. It's a spotlight, to see who steps up when the floor needs direction. She considered that. You already picked today's. I did. She raised her eyebrows slightly. It's you. Zahara blinked, then looked toward the door. Why me? You don't hesitate when things go sideways. You do the job right even when no one's watching. That's not leadership, that's just survival. Sometimes they're the same thing, Isaiah said. She didn't respond right away. What if I screw it up? Then we figure out why. And go again. She nodded once, then turned and walked out. Isaiah spent the next hour shadowing the receiving area. The back dock was cluttered with empty pallets stacked haphazardly and a clipboard tacked to the wall that hadn't been updated in at least a week. He found Dolores near the bread racks, her wrist wrapped tighter than before. "You've got anyone helping unload today?" he asked. She wiped her forehead with her sleeve. "Supposed to be Jamal, but he called out. Again." "Does he do that often?" She gave a short nod. "3 times in the last 2 weeks. Isaiah made a note. "You working the dock alone today, unless they pull someone from grocery." He looked at the bread rack. "Not ideal." "No," she said. "It isn't." He stepped back toward the office and radioed Zahara. "You got a minute?" "Yeah." "Near frozen. Meet me out back." When she arrived, he gestured at the dock. "This area's falling behind. Any chance you can pull someone from General to help cover the next delivery?" She glanced at the clipboard. "Groceries light too." "But if I shift Margot from dry goods after her restock, she could do an hour here. Make that call." She nodded and headed off. Isaiah watched her go, then turned toward the vendor door. The next delivery was due in 20 minutes. He rolled up his sleeves and began clearing the last of the empty crates himself. By midday, the rotation had started to show its stress points. 2 employees forgot to switch stations, leading to a brief backlog at checkout. Isaiah found Zahara near the dairy case, checking labels. "Front's 2 lanes short." She didn't blink. "On it." She pulled her radio and redirected a floor stalker immediately. Isaiah stepped aside as she passed, watching her walk with purpose, shoulders square. Later that afternoon, he stopped by the break room to check the feedback board he'd posted that morning. A few sticky notes had appeared. "Need more gloves near produce." "Card scanner at register 4 keeps freezing." "Lunch breaks running late." He jotted the issues into his notebook. Small things, but they meant people were speaking up. At 4:30, he met with Zadie near the back coolers. She was logging discarded items from the morning's rotation. "How's the new system treating you?" he asked. She shrugged. "Better than what we had. You think it'll stick if you actually listen when it breaks, maybe," he nodded. "Fair enough." She looked at him for a long second. "You know, when you first walked in here with that name tag, I thought you were another new guy who wasn't gonna last a week. What changed? You didn't look away when things got ugly." Isaiah didn't answer. He didn't need to. By closing, the store had held together. Not smoothly, not perfectly, but the gaps hadn't swallowed them. Isaiah stood at the front as the last customers trickled out. One of the newer cashiers handed off her till to Zahara, who double-checked it before locking it in the safe. When she turned around, Isaiah was waiting. "Solid first lead shift," she exhaled. "I'm exhausted." That's how you know it mattered. I'm not sure I'm built for this long term, he tilted his head. You don't need to decide that tonight, she looked at him. You going to be here again tomorrow? Every hour? She nodded, then turned toward the break room, her pace slowing but steady. Isaiah stayed until the last lights were out. As he walked through the quiet aisles, he noticed the end cap by the entrance had been reset. Seasonal items lined up neatly, handwritten tags marked the prices. A small note had been taped to the bottom corner. Let us know what's working. We're listening. No signature, he smiled briefly, then locked the door behind him and stepped into the night. Tomorrow would bring fresh cracks. But for the first time in a while, people weren't just holding the walls up, they were starting to rebuild. By Thursday morning, Isaiah had settled into a rhythm. He arrived before sunrise, same as the rest of the early crew, this time helping unload the weekly dairy shipment. The steel cart wheels squeaked across the polished concrete as he and Margot lined crates of milk and yogurt onto the cooler shelves, working in silence that wasn't uncomfortable. No clipboard, no blazer. Just the same gray polo he'd worn the day before, sleeves pushed up, hands cold from the refrigerated cases. After the truck pulled away, he found Zahara in the back near the hand wash station, rinsing off a spill from her forearm. You're off lead rotation today, he said. Zadie's taking it. Zahara didn't look up from the sink. She'll do fine. People already listened to her. Isaiah leaned against the doorframe. You handled a lot yesterday. You catch things before they break. That's rare. This time she dried her hands and turned around. I've been doing this long enough to know what happens when nobody does. Isaiah nodded. You ever thought about stepping into a formal management role? She raised an eyebrow. Here? Anywhere, she considered that. I've thought about it. Doesn't mean I trust what comes with it. What part don't you trust? The part where people above you forget what it's like down here, or worse, pretend they remember but don't listen when it matters. Isaiah didn't answer right away. He respected how directly she said it. I can't undo everything that's built up, he said, but I want to rebuild the system that failed you. Zahara gave a half shrug. People are watching. If you mean it, they'll know. She walked out, apron tight across her back, stride even. Isaiah stayed where he was, the hum of the cooler fans filling the space around him. Later that morning, the regional manager arrived, Vanessa Fowler. She was sharp, efficient, and to the point. Isaiah had worked with her for over 6 years. They'd built out 4 new stores together. She didn't waste words and never softened feedback. In the office, Isaiah briefed her on what he'd seen. She took notes fast, asked for names, schedules, and timestamps on the mold incident. When he finished, she set her pen down. You want a reset, she said. From the floor up. I want accountability without fear, and leadership that earns respect instead of demanding it. Vanessa closed the folder. Then we start by reshaping the chain of trust. People don't follow policies. They follow people. She stepped out onto the floor without asking for a tour. Isaiah followed as she spoke briefly to the meat counter team, then checked the backroom logs for expired stock. She asked Zadie 2 questions about turnover and listened without interrupting. When she reached the front of the store, she stopped beside Zahara's register. Your name's been brought up, Vanessa said plainly. Good things. Zahara looked at Isaiah, then back at Vanessa. I try to keep things steady. Have you ever supervised a team? Not officially. Vanessa opened a clipboard. We're restructuring this location. New assistant manager, new floor lead structure, and a support system that doesn't burn people out. I want to know if you're interested in being part of that. Zahara didn't answer right away. I don't want a title if it means babysitting chaos. It won't, Vanessa said, but I won't lie, it's work. We'll train you, pay bump included. You'll have input on scheduling and hiring. Zahara glanced at the line forming behind her. Can I finish my shift first? Vanessa nodded. You'll get a formal offer by end of day. They moved on. Isaiah caught the way Zahara's shoulders stayed level even after the conversation ended. She didn't let herself get wide-eyed or flustered. That was the kind of steadiness a good team needed. By mid-afternoon, Isaiah sat down with Dolores in the break room. She rubbed her wrist gingerly, the brace now frayed at the edge. "I spoke to HR," he said. "Your request for lighter duty should have been approved months ago." Dolores raised her eyebrows. So starting Monday, you're moving to front of store stocking. Lighter loads, shorter shifts, same pay. She looked at him across the table. "You doing this for show?" "I'm doing it because it's overdue." She leaned back. "I've seen a lot of managers come and go. You're the first one who asked me how my wrist was doing and meant it." Isaiah nodded. "You shouldn't have had to wait this long." She stood carefully. "Well, I appreciate it. I really do." After she left, Isaiah reviewed the staffing structure with Vanessa. Together, they identified the most overworked departments and reallocated shifts without cutting hours. They brought in a floater from another store to help with produce through the weekend, and scheduled a full maintenance sweep from the facilities team. By the time the sun started to dip, Isaiah stepped outside for the first time all day. The late afternoon light cast long bands across the parking lot. He stood near the edge of the sidewalk, watching the last wave of customers trickle out. Zadie exited a few minutes later, her hoodie tied around her waist, grocery bag in hand. "You're still here," she said. "Still listening." She glanced back at the building. "People are talking, not nervous talk, curious talk. That good or bad depends what happens next." Isaiah smiled faintly. "You thinking about that lead role longer term?" She twisted the handles of her bag. "I might be. Depends who's running the store. They'll have support and oversight." She nodded. "Then maybe." She walked off without another word, keys jangling at her side. Inside, Isaiah met with Vanessa and the new interim manager, a quiet, focused woman named Rena who had transferred from a high-performing store in the same region. She had already shadowed half the departments and noted 2 process gaps in inventory tracking. Rena turned to Isaiah. "I'm not here to patch holes, I'm here to rebuild structure." "That's the plan," he said. Before leaving, Isaiah walked the floor one last time. The aisles were quieter but cleaner. The end caps were still stocked. Staff no longer avoided his eye. He passed Margot near the freezer section. She gave a small wave without slowing her pace. At checkout, Zahara handed a receipt to a woman with 3 kids, then wrapped a bouquet of tulips and placed them gently in the cart. Isaiah paused by the exit. No big announcement, no confetti, just quiet dignity in motion. He stepped outside, the automatic doors closing behind him with a soft hiss. The company wasn't fixed, but this store was different now, not perfect, but awake, and so was he.